The story of Pericles.
Pericles, Prince of Tyre, became a voluntary exile from his dominions to avert the dreadful calamities which Antiochus, the wicked emperor of Greece, threatened to bring upon his subjects in the city of Tyre. This was in revenge for a discovery which Pericles had made of a shocking deed which the emperor had done in secret. Leaving the government of his people in the hands of his able and honest minister, Helicanus, Pericles set sail from Tyre. The first place he visited was Tarsus, and hearing that the city was suffering severe famine, took with him a store of provisions for its relief. Cleon, the governor of Tarsus, welcomed him with boundless thanks, and Pericles was inclined to stay, but soon letters came from Tyre warning him Tarsus was not safe, as Antiochus knew of his abode. So Pericles set sail again, and had not gone far before he was overtaken by a terrible storm. All perished, except Pericles, who was cast by the waves on an unknown shore. He there met with some fishermen, who informed him that the name of the country was Pentapolis, and that their king was known as Simonides the Good, because of his peaceable reign and good government. He also learned that the king had a fair daughter, and the following day was her birthday, when a tournament was to be held at court, and many princes and knights were come to try their skill in arms for the love of the fair Princess Thaisa. Now one of the fishermen brought in a suit of armour discovered in their nets. Pericles thought he had lost his armour, and when he beheld it, he said,
"Thanks, Fortune. After all my crosses, you give me somewhat to repair myself. This armour was bequeathed to me by my dead father, for whose dear sake I have so loved it that whithersoever I went, I still have kept it by me. And the rough sea that parted it from me, having now become calm, hath given it back again, for which I thank it. For, since I have my father's gift again, I think my shipwreck no misfortune."
The next day, Pericles, clad in his armour, repaired to the royal court of Simonides, where he performed great wonders at the tournament, vanquishing with ease all the brave knights and princes who contended with him in arms for the honour of Thaisa's love. Thaisa distinguished Pericles by her special favour and crowned him with the wreath of victory. He became a most passionate lover of this beauteous princess from the first moment he beheld her.
The good Simonides so well approved the valour and noble qualities of Pericles that though he knew not the rank of this royal stranger, yet he did not disdain the valiant unknown to become his son-in-law. Now Pericles had not been many months married to Thaisa before he received intelligence that his enemy Antiochus was dead, and that his subjects, impatient of his long absence, threatened to place Helicanus on the vacant throne of Tyre. But Helicanus, a loyal subject, made this known to Pericles, that he might return home and resume his lawful place as Prince of Tyre.
It was a matter of great surprise and joy to Simonides to find that his son-in-law was the renowned Prince of Tyre. Yet he was fearful to trust his beloved daughter to the sea, for she was now with child. Pericles himself wished her to remain with her father till after her confinement, but the poor lady so earnestly desired to go with her husband that at last they consented.
The sea was no friendly element to unhappy Pericles, for long before they reached Tyre another dreadful tempest arose. Thaisa was taken ill, and in a short space of time the nurse came to Pericles with an infant in her arms, but with the sad tidings that his wife had died the moment the little babe was born. No tongue can tell the dreadful sufferings of Pericles when he heard his wife was dead. As soon as he could speak, he said, "O you gods, why do you make us love your goodly gifts, and then snatch those gifts away?" Then he took the little babe in his arms and said, "Now may your life be mild and gentle, for you have had the rudest welcome that ever prince's child did meet withal. May that which follows be happy, for you have had as chiding a nativity as fire, air, water, earth, and heaven could make to herald you on this earth.
The storm still continued to rage furiously, and the sailors, having a superstition that while a dead body remained on the ship, the storm would never cease, they demanded that Pericles should throw his queen overboard. Though Pericles knew how unfounded this superstition was, he patiently submitted to their request. The unhappy prince went to take a last view of his dear wife, and as he looked on his Thaisa, he said,
"A terrible childbed hast thou had, my dear. No light, no fire. Nor have I time to bring thee hallowed to thy grave, but must cast thee, scarcely confined, into the sea, where for a monument upon thy bones the humming waters must overwhelm thy corpse, lying with simple shells."
Then was Thaisa placed in a large chest, and sweet-smelling spices strewed upon her, and beside her Pericles placed rich jewels and a written paper telling who she was. Then with his own hands he cast the chest into the sea. When the storm was over, Pericles ordered the sailors to make for Tarsus, for he knew that the baby could not hold out until they came to Tyre.
After that same tempestuous night, a worthy gentleman of Ephesus and a most skilful physician was standing by the seashore, when his servants brought to him a chest that the waves had thrown on the land. Cerimon ordered the chest to be conveyed to his house, where it was opened, and he beheld with wonder the body of a young lady. From the paper he learned that she was Thaisa, a queen, and wife to Pericles, prince of Tyre. Then, observing Thaisa's face, he saw how fresh and unlike death her looks were, and said, "They were too hasty that threw you into the sea." For he did not believe her to be dead. He ordered a fire to be made, proper cordials to be brought, and soft music to be played. And he said to those who crowded round, "I pray you, gentlemen, give her air. This queen will live. See, she begins to blow into life again. She is alive. Behold, her eyelids move."
Thaisa had not died, but after the birth of her little baby had fallen into a deep swoon, so that all who saw believed her dead. But now, by the care of this kind gentleman, she was once more revived to light and life. When Cerimon thought she was recovered enough to bear the sight, he showed her the paper written by her husband and the jewels. She said, "It is my lord's writing, but since my wedded lord I shall never see again, I will put on a vestal livery and never more have joy." Cerimon then placed her in the temple of Diana, where she became a priestess, and passed her days in sorrowing for her husband's supposed loss.
Pericles carried his young daughter, named Marina because she was born at sea, to Tarsus, to leave her with Cleon, the governor of that city, and his wife Dionysia. He told them, "I leave the infant Marina in your care, beseeching you to give her princely training." Then, being assured that his child would be carefully attended to, Pericles went safely on to Tyre.
Cleon, as promised, gave Marina the most careful education, so that by the time Marina attained the age of 14 years, the most deeply learned men were not more studied. She sang like one immortal, and danced as a goddess. But when she had gained all these graces which made her the general wonder, Dionysia, the wife of Cleon, became her mortal enemy from jealousy. Her own daughter, from the slowness of her mind, was not able to attain that perfection wherein Marina excelled. All praise was bestowed on Marina, whilst her own daughter, having had the same careful education, was in comparison disregarded. So Dionysia formed a project to remove Marina out of the way, and to encompass this wicked design, she employed a man to murder Marina. Leonine, the man to do this deed, though wicked, could hardly be persuaded to undertake it, for Marina had won all hearts to love her. He said,
"She is a goodly creature."
The fitter, then, the gods should have her, replied the merciless Dionysia, and Leonine, fearing to disobey her, resolved to do the dreadful deed. As they walked on the seashore, Leonine bade Marina say her prayers, for he had sworn to kill her for his lady's sake. Marina was bewildered and cried out, "Why would she have me killed? I never hurt her in all my life. How have I offended?" The murderer replied,
"My commission is not to reason on the deed, but to do it." But, as he was going to kill her, pirates happened to land on the shore, and on seeing Marina, bore her off as a prize to their ship. The pirates then carried her to Mytilene, and sold her for a slave, where, though in that humble condition, Marina soon became known through the whole city for her beauty and her virtues. Lysimachus, a young nobleman who was governor of Mytilene, went himself to see this paragon of excellence, whom all the city praised so highly. And Lysimachus found in Marina such a miracle of sense, fine breeding, and excellent qualities, as well as beauty and grace, that notwithstanding her humble situation, he wished to marry her.
Meanwhile, at Tarsus, Leonine, fearing the anger of Dionysia, told her he had killed Marina, and the wicked woman gave out that she was dead, and made a pretended funeral, and erected a stately monument. Shortly after this, Pericles, with the faithful Helicanus, made a voyage to Tyre for the purpose of seeing his daughter. When they told him that Marina was dead, and showed him the monument, great was the misery that most wretched father endured. He took ship and hastily departed from Tarsus, and from that day a heavy melancholy seized him. He never spoke, and seemed totally insensible to everything around him. In due course the ship passed by Mytilene, and Lysimachus, observing the royal vessel, was desirous to know who was on board. He was told that it was Pericles, Prince of Tyre. Helicanus added,
"A man, sir, who from grief has not spoken to anyone these 3 months, nor taken any sustenance. This grief springs from the loss of a beloved daughter and wife." Lysimachus begged to see the afflicted prince, but Pericles made no answer to him, nor did he appear to perceive any stranger in his presence. Then Lysimachus thought of the peerless maid, Marina, and how her sweet tongue might haply win some answer from this silent prince. He asked her this favour.
The gentle Marina replied, "Sir, I will use my utmost skill in his recovery, provided none but I be suffered to come near him." And as if she had known it was her royal father she stood before, she spoke to Pericles of the wayward changes in her own fate, telling him from what a high estate she herself had fallen. Pericles lifted up his lifeless eyes, and Marina, the perfect image of her mother, presented to his amazed sight the features of his dead queen. He was further amazed when she told him that her name was Marina.
"Nay," said Pericles, "you little know how you do startle me, to call yourself Marina."
"Sir, I was called Marina because I was born at sea. My mother was the daughter of a king. She died the minute I was born, and the king my father left me at Tarsus, till the cruel wife of Cleon sought to murder me. But some pirates rescued me and brought me here to Mytilene. Good sir, why do you weep? Do you not believe me? I am the daughter to King Pericles, if good King Pericles be living."
Then Pericles shouted out with joy, and called all about him to be witness to this miracle. His daughter, believed dead, was alive, and standing before him. And with that he sank exhausted on a couch, where he fell into a sound sleep, and as he slept he dreamed a dream, which made him resolve to go to Ephesus. This resolve was so strong Lysimachus and Marina could not persuade him from it, so they undertook to make the journey with him. At Ephesus, they journeyed to the temple of the goddess Diana, where good old Cerimon and the restored Thaisa, now a priestess, stood before the altar. Then, as commanded in the dream, Pericles declared all the story of his life and misfortunes. Thaisa, unable to bear the transports which his words had raised in her, cried out his name, then fainted.
Cerimon then told Pericles that this woman before the altar was Thaisa, his wife. He recounted how he had found the coffin thrown on the Ephesian shore and restored the lady back to life. Thaisa, being recovered from her swoon, said, "O my lord, are you not Pericles? Like him you speak, like him you are. Thaisa am I, supposed dead and drowned." Then Pericles cried out,
"Oh, come, Thaisa, be buried a second time within these arms." Then, turning to Marina, he did show his daughter to her mother, saying, "Look who kneels here, flesh of thy flesh, thy child, born at sea and called Marina, because she was yielded there."
And while Thaisa hung in rapturous joy over the child, Pericles knelt before the altar and blessed Diana for her vision to him. Then did Pericles consent to the well-deserving Lysimachus in marriage to Marina, and all was joyful celebration.
It only remains to be told that the wicked Dionysia met with an end proportionable to her deserts, being burned in her palace by the inhabitants of Tarsus. Thus have we seen in Pericles, his queen and daughter, a famous example of virtue assailed by calamity, becoming finally successful and triumphing over chance and change.